Thanks for tuning in to the Friday the 13th episode of Flashback Horror Movie Podcast. I am your host, the Prime Minister of Sinister, Don Nice. And with me is the one, the only, the best in the world, Pajama Pants Playa, John Grande. What's going on, John? How are you today, buddy?
I am great. How are you?
Not too bad. I know it's, the Friday the 13th, the day Friday the 13th, not just the movie, but the day Friday the 13th episode. But unfortunately, we're doing this on Saturday the 14th, which was a movie. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have. I have seen Saturday the 14th. It's
Man.
Kind of a weird B movie.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time, probably since it originally came out, since I've seen it. But yeah, man, I wasn't able to get together yesterday, which is what we were originally scheduled, which kind of sucked. But we're doing this anyways. And how was your week? I guess it's been a week since we talked, right?
Yeah. My week was pretty good, I guess. My unfortunately, the news about my car is that there was so much damage done to the engine that it's not going to be fixable.
Oh man!
So
moment of silence.
Yeah, I know.
Reggie,
dedicated to the memory of my car.
Reggie the Reckless.
Yeah, Reggie the Reckless, R.I.P. Not the actor, the car.
Right.
Yeah, but I was sad, man, because it was like my first car, so
yeah.
It was tough. But I'm getting a better car now, and
nice.
It's much more reliable and stuff like that. It's just the fact that like the other car was like my baby.
Yeah, man, it's probably a lot of memories in that car, huh?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of stories, a lot of good times. It was kind of when he told me on the phone, my mechanic, I was like, oh, man. I was really sad. But,
welcome to adulthood, huh?
The glass is half full as always, man. So,
yeah, good.
I'm glad that we're moving on to a bigger and better car.
Is it bigger?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's cool. So my week's okay. Same old with me. We had some scheduling issues at work, but the week's over. The weekend has begun. So looking forward to the Dodger game tonight, obviously.
Oh yeah, congratulations on that. That's I cannot believe the Yankees beat the Indians. That is insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, it seemed like the last three games, the Indians just didn't have the heart that they seem to have. And, there's something to that whole, peaking too soon, you know what I mean, thing. So, maybe that's what that was all about. I don't know. The Indians are, every team in Cleveland seems to be the Cavaliers lately. So that's just kind of the way it goes for Cleveland fans.
I'm glad the Nationals are out, though. I can't stand them.
Yeah,
so
I understand that.
Dodgers, Cubs.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about the Cubs, so I was kind of torn. I'm like, I don't know who I want to win this. You know what I mean? So, but a good beat up 5 games, Cubs team is better than than anything. So that's not too shabby. I'll deal with that.
Yeah, they use like everybody on their pitching staff to get through that series.
Yeah. Did you see Scherzer gave up 4 runs in 1 inning in that last game?
He was only on 2 days rest, I think, and he had like a pulled hamstring.
Oh, did he? I didn't even know that.
Moved him out there, out of the bullpen in like the 4th inning, and he gave up 4 runs. I was like, what? Like, I know he's a great pitcher, but he's hurt, and he's on 2 days rest, and he's not used to coming out of the bullpen. This is a terrible management move.
Right.
Well, Dusty Baker's cursed too.
I was going to say that's the problem right there, that coach. Anyways, that's not horror related. Especially, it will be horror related if the Dodgers lose, but it isn't as of yet.
It's horror related for the Nationals.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
They've never won a playoff series.
Yeah, that's pretty sad, huh?
It is pretty sad. That how many times have they been to the NLDS and lost, man?
Yeah. We could definitely do a baseball podcast. I could talk for days.
Like I personally don't even like. I know you probably look at this more strictly horror but like I think it's fun to shoot even about other things.
Hell yeah, I'm with you, brother.
As long as you have good chemistry, and I think we do. I think it's like we could talk about goddamn cereal.
I love Fruity Pebbles. No, I'm just messing around.
Cookie Crisps or Frosted Flakes.
Cookie Crisp versus Frosted Flakes. Go. No, I'm just
discussion.
Kidding. Right. Okay. Commence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so did you get a chance? I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of stuff this week. Did you get a chance to watch anything other than say, I don't even know if you watched part 3, did you?
Oh, I did. Yeah,
Cool.
I watched part
Cool.
3. I ended up watching part 3 yesterday because I really wanted to watch one on Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch part 3. But yeah, I watched a lot of shit this week.
Did you? Nice.
A couple nights ago, I went out to my friend's house, and we were hanging out for a little while. And then he was like, yo, well, let's watch, since it's around October, we'll watch a horror movie on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
He has Netflix. I don't.
Gotcha.
So he turns on Netflix, and we were talking about watching the new Chucky movie, but we ended up watching the one I saw in theaters a few months ago called Raw.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and it was really, honestly, a really good rewatch for me because it had been a little while, and I had forgotten some things about the movie, but man, I think it's a really, really strong movie, and I would actually put it up there for like one of my favorites of the year.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, really, really cool movie. Anybody hasn't seen it or anything like that, it's basically about this girl who's a vegetarian, and she goes away to veterinarian school at like a college, and basically it's like her initiation to join the sorority that she's in forces her to eat like this raw rabbit stomach. Yeah. And basically after that happens, she becomes addicted to like raw meat, and then eventually she becomes a cannibal.
What?
And it's basically a movie that's like foreshadowing the troubles of addiction and the troubles of fitting in and the horrors of fitting in and all these things. And
right.
it's a really I think strong movie. Nice. It's French, but it's I think it's more than worth a watch. Really good movie. Maybe not around this time of the year,
right? Right.
Not like one I would say is a Halloween horror pick. Like we'll talk about those in the next episode. But
right.
Definitely a really, really good watch for sure if anyone's a fan of movies like that.
Huh. So was this dubbed? Was it in French and dubbed into English, or was it subtitled?
No, it was actually just French with subtitles, which I prefer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For a long time in my life, I wouldn't watch movies like that. It bothered me. But the first movie that I really saw that I liked that was subtitled was Brotherhood of the Wolf. Did you ever see that?
I have not seen that.
Oh, that's a great movie. I was really surprised at how much, and I saw that at the theater. It's a werewolf movie. But anyways, yeah, you should definitely check that out if you don't mind subtitles. But
I don't mind subtitles at all.
So would you say that you enjoyed it more on the second viewing?
Yes, I do, because I think I picked up more things than I did the first time I watched it. Like, I thought the first time I watched it, I thought, okay, this was a good movie. But I think this second time I was able to kind of take a step back and really realize, all the dimensions and all the things this movie was trying to say. And I think it really, hit home with me. I thought it was a very smart movie. And it had a really, I thought, creepy-ass score, which is not something you see anymore.
Right, for sure.
With, horror movies and stuff. I think the score is a really big part of it, as to, like, the success of certain classic horror movies.
Absolutely.
Like, what would Halloween be without the music?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That music is legendary. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, there's a story out about the Halloween movie, how they showed it for some executives without the score, and they just thought it was the most ridiculous movie that they'd ever seen. You know what I mean? And then afterwards, they added it. So, did you ever hear that story?
Music makes.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Movies like that are good on the second viewing. They're or better, I should say, not good, but better than the original viewing. You can tell most of those movies are very smart movies. You know what I mean? For instance, I'm going to throw a movie out there that I know a lot of people hate, but I believe that you and I both agree that It Follows is a really good movie. And
absolutely.
And it's much better on the second viewing.
I think It Follows the best horror movie of the decade.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And like you said, the more you watch, the more you see. You know what I mean? And not all movies can claim that. You know what I mean? So that's definitely a smart filmmaker there for sure that can do that. So, but you didn't talk much about Raw when we first saw it. I mean, you talked because you didn't want to give any information away. But the little bit more information that you gave there really piqued my interest in the fact that you never mentioned that she becomes a cannibal. So for me, that really adds. I mean, just those couple words really add to the my interest in seeing it. So I'm definitely going to check that out for sure. So
it's really worth the watch. What did you get to watching this week, man?
Well, I didn't, like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of stuff. But we watched Flatliners, the original Flatliners, and I know, again, people have mixed feelings about that movie. But I'm a, I mean, again, it's from my generation, and it's getting Julia Roberts and so on and so forth. So I really enjoyed it. Have you ever seen it?
I have. I seen it once years ago, and I remember thinking it was an all right movie. Yeah. They just recently remade it, right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of what got my interest because I thought the remake looked not so good, and I went out and saw that Mill Creek. Are you familiar with Mill Creek, the DVD distribution company?
Yeah.
They do real cheap, low end of the totem pole like releases without a lot of extras. Anyways, they put out a steel book of Flatliners, which is pretty cool because it's a steel book and it only costs like $10 on Amazon. So if you haven't, so I mean, it's worth just saying, oh man, it's only $10. I'll go pick it up. So, so I did that and we watched that, and I really enjoy the movie. I think I don't necessarily say horror, classic type horror, but there's some horrifying things in it. But so I got a chance to watch that this week, and I really liked it on a 50th viewing. I've seen it many times on VHS. So, anything else? Did you get a chance to watch anything else?
Yeah, I watched. My friend was pushing me. He was saying, "Oh man, I really want to watch Rob Zombie's Halloween."
Oh man!
And I was like, so
right.
I didn't really want to, but we ended up watching Rob Zombie's Halloween. The original, not Halloween 2.
Right.
But, we watched the unrated director's cut, and, to be honest, I was kind of bored through it. It's one of those movies that I've never really understood why. Like, there was a time where I thought it was a very good movie, and I was like, this is passable. This is a decent enough remake. But I think it's just like every time I see it, since then, it kind of keeps lowering on my scale. It's one of those movies I just wish I could not see anymore.
Right.
I want to see it again. I've seen it to death, and I think it's like really starting to take its toll. But I forgot the scene with Ken Foree, and he's going to like the bathroom.
Yeah.
And
is it like a
trucker?
dump,
and then Michael Myers just knocks on the door. He goes, "You best not mess with me until I'm done dropping this load."
Jeez.
That was the funniest line of the whole movie. I was dying, man.
Doesn't that kind of puts a Rob Zombie movie into perspective, that line, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's so silly, it's funny, you know what I mean? And I don't know, that's kind of how I feel. And you know what, I have to be honest with you, his first two movies I'm a big fan of. I really like, House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. I'm not sure, I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but I really, really had high hopes after those two movies about what he could do with Halloween, and man, I remember seeing it on opening night at the theater and walking out of there going, wow, what in the hell, man? It seemed to me like a episode of 2020, or you know what I mean? And it just, I don't know, it was, everybody's like, oh, I like the realism and I like understanding why he does, Michael Myers does the things he does. But I'll be damned, dude, I don't need to know that stuff, I know we've talked about that before, but it just really takes away from the movie, if you ask me.
Oh, totally. And I agree. I'm a big fan of House of Thousand Corpses, which is actually playing soon. I think next week. I think a week
nice.
Today. They're playing it near me, and I'm probably going to go see it. And Devil's Rejects, I always liked a lot. And I would even take it a step further. I even like Lords of Salem.
Yeah,
so there are 3 Rob Zombie movies I really like. So it's a shame that Halloween didn't turn out the way that maybe we all wanted it to. I know there are some fans of the movie, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think overall it was kind of it left us all scratching our heads for sure.
For sure, yeah. Did you hear the new news about the new Halloween movie that's coming out next year?
What is the new news?
Well, the new news is, originally they stated that it was going to be a direct sequel to Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2.
Mm-hmm.
And now it actually is a direct sequel to the original Halloween. And
weren't we talking? I thought you said like they were going to ignore everything.
Yeah, well, I was under the understanding that they were going to ignore everything after part 2.
Oh, okay.
Which, for you and I, that, for me at least, that's a killer, because Halloween 2 is maybe my favorite Halloween. You know what I mean?
It's
so
fine too, and it takes place in the same night, so
right.
I don't really
Exactly. So that all those things added up with them doing away with any of the sequels. I mean, I understand doing away with some of them. Not that that's what I would do, but I could understand some of them were pretty bad, and you'd want to ignore those. But the first two, the second one. I mean, I don't understand why you want to ignore that. That's the I mean, the original Halloween is probably the greatest movie in the series, but my favorite is part 2. So it's kind of upsetting that they're going to do that. So what that means is that it's pretty much a reimagining of the whole story, and to me that's kind of frustrating. And I mean, I'll go see it obviously still, but it's pretty frustrating to think about where they're going to go with it.
Yeah, I'm not even too excited right now. I don't know. I wish they had done something with maybe Danielle Harris.
Right.
Since she's like of
Absolutely.
age now. Like, it would have been cool to see like maybe Halloween 4 20 years later, which would be, I think, next year, wouldn't it be? Or no, it would be, Jesus Christ, that'd be 30 years later.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I know, right?
That's insane.
Yeah,
I think that
I'm old.
movie's 29, going on 30 years old.
Yeah.
But, that would be really cool. You could
I agree.
Even, H3O.
Yeah.
Halloween 4, 30 years later.
Wow.
And he's after Danielle Harris. He's after Jamie again. I think that would be a good idea, but at the same time, her character was killed off in part 6.
Right.
But I don't know, in my brain, since it wasn't Danielle Harris as the actress, I never ever was like, oh, well, Jamie died. Like,
right.
The fact that they switched actresses always bugged me. I was like, no, she's not dead.
Yeah, I hate that too. Also, they cast Judy Greer.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, that makes me much less excited. I mean, it's not that I think, she's a horrible actress. I mean, she's not a great actress by any means, but, I mean, really? Why would you announce that? That should be something that people find out the night the movie comes out. You know what I mean? If she's going to be in this movie. And I think she's going to be Laurie Strode's daughter or something, I believe. I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, had, who was the guy from H2O? He was, like, really big at that
Josh
time.
Hartnett.
Who?
Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, Josh Hartnett. Yeah, he was. Yeah, that I remember at the time that was like probably a huge ass announcement.
Right,
so,
right.
I don't know. This definitely doesn't carry the weight. I don't get why just not have it be Danielle Harris. Like,
right.
What the,
exactly. Right. I mean, all the
any sense.
Right. The fans love her.
Judy Greer is not bringing anybody into the goddamn movie that didn't want to see it before. Now they do because she's in it. There's no way.
And or
Danielle Harris would bring in the genre, even more genre.
Right.
fans,
Exactly. Judy Greer may actually take fans away. You know what I mean? Then bring them.
At the same time, I think, like, even though if it's called Halloween, people go see it and it'll make money and it'll be number 1. But it may not do shit after week 1. It's
right.
just one of those things. I don't know. I don't get why you just didn't do Danielle Harris. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it sure doesn't. So I know we got Halloween coming up, so we got Halloween on the brain, don't we?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to see anything else? I know you said you watched quite a few things.
Well, the one I watched yesterday, I'd actually like to talk about on the next episode.
Okay.
It's going to be one of my Halloween horror picks.
Right.
But no, that's pretty much it for me. How about you, buddy?
I actually got a chance to sit down and watch Pumpkinhead, which I'm a huge Pumpkinhead fan. Are you? Do you like Pumpkinhead?
Yeah, I like Pumpkinhead. It's not one that I go back to and watch a lot, but it's always been I think a really good movie.
Yeah, I really dig it, and I think that it's one that, because it's more of a monster movie than, say, a slasher, it's one that stands up a little bit better to younger audiences. So, I've actually showed it for, kids in my neighborhood, my kids' friends in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? They came over and we watched it outside with a projector and stuff, and they actually really liked that movie, but I showed them things like A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, and they just kind of laughed through the whole thing. So, I think that's interesting that a movie like Pumpkinhead, for the younger generation, kind of stands up a little bit better than those films. But I guess it's to be expected, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
No doubt. So, but yep, that's all I watched this week. I'm trying to think if I, tonight at our drive, we have a drive-in here in Columbus, Ohio, and they're playing Friday the 13th. They're doing like a 5-movie thing where they're playing Friday the 13th, the original, Freddy vs. Jason, Scream, and Night of the Living Dead, I think, or something like that. So, but the problem is that it's at 8:00 tonight, which is exactly the time that the Dodgers start. So I'm still, I'm debating on which one I'm going to do. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to DVR the game and go see the movie. But they're also playing.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, they're also playing Nightmare on Elm Street at one of the local theaters here this weekend, and next weekend is obviously Halloween's playing there. So I don't know. We'll have to go. I don't know. I'm kind of a homebody. At my age, I don't really like to go out much. With crowds and stuff. So I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. So, but if I go to the drive-in tonight, it'll probably just be for Friday the 13th. I don't think I'll stay for all the other movies. So yeah. So we'll see. I'll let you know next week. I'll let you know next week how it went. So, are you ready to get started with today's featured movie, Friday the 13th, Part 3?
Yeah, let's let Jason come into everyone's living room.
All right, cool. Here we go.
Weekends are a good time to escape to the woods. Unless the weekend begins with Friday the 13th. Because 13 is an unlucky number. But out here, so are 1 through 12. Because these are Jason's woods. And nobody leaves them alive. Friday the 13th, Part 3, in 3D. Jason, you can't fight him. You can't stop him. And now, you can't even keep him on the screen. Friday the 13th, Part 3, in 3D. Now, when it comes to killing in Jason's woods, Jason will come to you. Friday the 13th, Part 3, in 3D. A new dimension in terror. It will scare you. Count on it.
Cool, man. Does it get any better than Don LaFontaine's voice? I mean, man, that dude.
Absolutely not.
Oh, he takes me back so fast. But isn't that a great trailer? I know there's a lot of visuals of that trailer, but isn't that a great trailer?
It is a great trailer. I just like the weekends. It's like you get right into it. You're like, yes. You're like, I know what this is.
Absolutely. So, what's your thoughts, man? We've talked about. Well, we have never talked about the original because that was my original, the first episode I ever did in this podcast, and we weren't together yet. What's your thoughts on Friday the 13th Part 3?
Friday the 13th Part 3, I actually went back and rewatched it yesterday for the goddamn over probably 100 times.
Right.
But, to be honest, I really, really have a great time with the movie. Every time I turn the movie on, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things about it that are kind of quirky, but I still to this day think really work. And I love the 3D gimmick, even though I don't have the 3D version of the film. It's funny to see all the 3D gimmicks, like people pointing stuff at the screen, whether it be the broomstick, the bat, the yo-yo. I mean, there's so many classic little scenes like that where you're just like, oh man, that must have been funny, to see that in the theater. People must have been like, ooh, oohing and eyeing. But this is a movie that I always thought had phenomenal cinematography. I think for the most part, the characters are a little off in this one. I think like Shelley and Vera were really, really likable, but everybody else I think kind of fell a little bit flat. Let's get into the lead actress, though.
Okay.
I've always wanted to know your opinions on her. I think we're probably going to agree on this, but what did you think of Miss Dana Kimmel?
Well, Dana, although again, very nice to look at, I thought she was attractive.
I agree.
I probably think she may have been the worst final girl of the series. Is that kind of how you feel?
I would put her towards the bottom. I don't know if I'd say the worst. Like I'd put her over like the girl from Part 6. I think the worst out of the first 5, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like when you talk about movies like Part 8, like I think she's better. I don't even remember the character's name in Part 8. That's how.
Yeah, no.
I've seen that movie a lot.
Yeah, you're probably right. There were times when I thought she did a fine job in this movie, but when it really came time for her to show her chops, she was really, really bad, I think. Like when she's telling the story, which I never quite understood that story.
Oh my God, yeah, that's the one part of the movie that just did not age well.
Right. So, and her, the way she, her acting at the end, when I know she was supposed to be crazy or gone crazy at that point, but I just thought it was way over the top, way weird. I don't know, it just didn't fit. And here's the thing. We had Adrienne King and Amy Steele up to this point, you know what I mean? Who I love both of them, and I do have a connection with Adrienne, but that doesn't. I just felt like they were 10 times better than she was. So that's one of the reasons that she stood out more. If she would have been a secondary character, for instance, if she would have played, Vera or
exactly what I was thinking. Like I always thought Vera was probably the best actress in this movie.
Right.
I would have switched those two. I would have had Vera be, or even have Dana Kimmel play the Tracy Savage part.
Right. Absolutely.
Maybe we could have seen, because I thought Dana Kimmel in the looks department was like maybe even a 10. Like she's a good-looking woman.
Right. Well, that's one of the.
I would have had her be the dumb girlfriend or something.
Right. That's one of the things about this movie is that all the way across the board, I thought these 3 girls were very attractive. I thought all 3 of them were really good looking. So that and I think Debbie, man, I could not remember her name. Tracy Savage played Debbie, but I thought they were really attractive. And man, I don't want to sound shallow, but when they're, when it doesn't take away from any, when they're not so attractive, you for me, it's kind of like nitpick everything that they do. When they're attractive, you can get away with a few things, you know what I mean, acting wise, except for Dana Kimmel in this situation. So, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think that, as a secondary character, she would have been fine. If she would have gotten killed off a little earlier, that would have been okay. You know what I mean? I thought she was just that type of actress, and I thought either of the other 2 probably could have done a better job. You agree with that?
I don't know about Tracy Savage.
You don't think so?
I actually met Tracy Savage at a convention a few years ago.
Cool.
And she was saying how like she had no experience acting, and she honestly was wanting to be a broadcaster.
Oh, wow.
And she just kind of did the movie for the experience and to get her foot in the door with communications, movies, and media, whatnot.
Huh.
But she said she didn't really know what she was doing. And to be honest, I thought the Vera character, or even the actress, I thought she was just, of the 3, the standout.
Yeah,
like, I thought she was the prettiest of the 3. I thought she was the best actress of the 3. She had the most charisma of the 3.
Yeah.
So if it was up to me, I would have recasted. I probably would have put her as the lead role because I think she would have done a really, really good job. But then again, I mean, you made a good point. You're following Amy Steele,
right?
My favorite. So it was really it's going to be hard for anybody. And I think we mentioned this on a past episode. She's the only Friday the 13th final girl, I believe, in out of the first 7 that's not a blondie.
Right.
Which I just thought was really funny.
Yeah, like that's so interesting.
For some reason. Yeah, I always thought that was really interesting. But also, as much shit as I have given Dana Kimmel over the years for performance-wise, I think she is a good final girl in and of the fact of, we'll get into the final chase scene, but, like, I think she does an amazing job during that sequence, man. And I think that whole sequence as a whole may be, like, my favorite of the entire series. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what did you think about the rest of the side characters, like Shelley and Paul Kratka? What did you think of them?
Well, we'll start with Mr. Kratka. I think that first of all, the thing about him he played Rick is the name of the character. The thing about him in this is he seemed so much older than everybody else. I thought, you know what I mean? That kind of threw me off. Did you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's like Mr. Brady from the Brady Bunch or something.
Right, exactly. All all buttoned up, and maybe he was some kind. I don't know. Maybe he was rich, or you know what I mean, something like that. But yeah, that kind of threw me off. And he was kind of creepy in the way that he dealt with Dana Kimmel's character. Like, I mean, I don't know. He felt like a creepy old dude trying to get in a young girl's pants. So I thought that always kind of threw me off a little bit. And it didn't take, saying all these things. I think we both love this movie. It definitely doesn't take away from the movie. But again, looking at it critically this time instead of just watching it like I usually do, I thought, man, nowadays he'd be in jail for harassment. You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of funny. But Catherine Parks, who played Vera, she was a little bit older too. I don't know if you know that. She was like 4 or 5 years older than the other girls. But yes, I felt like, and I don't know. Okay, let's talk about the scene where we meet Catherine Parks, who played Vera. Do you remember they went up to their door and the mother comes out and she's like, she's not going. Was it not the weirdest thing ever that the mother was like super, how do I say it? Like Hispanic?
Yeah, I mean,
because I didn't. So, it didn't.
Never really. I always just thought Vera was smoking hot, so I didn't give a shit.
Well, right.
I like. She goes, "Which one's my date?" And he goes, "That would be me." And he goes, and Shelley goes, "Sorry." Plastic.
Yeah, but you're right. She's definitely the best looking of three. I really like Tracy Savage too. I thought she was attractive, but Catherine Parks was probably the one I was most attracted to. And so Tracy Savage again. Very cute girl. Again, she was kind of pedestrian as an actress, and so you know what I mean. She was just kind of an extra character, which Dana Kimmel could have played. Not that Tracy Savage couldn't either. But then there was like Shelley, and well, let's not get to Shelley yet because I'm a big fan of his. But there's oh my God, what are that? Chili? Was that the girl's name or the guy's name?
Shelley is Larry Zerner.
No, Chili, the Cheech and Chong couple.
Oh yeah,
that's the girl, right? The girls.
I always thought they were terrible.
Yeah. Well, they were there for people for Jason to kill, but I always thought it was pretty funny. Remember the van's on fire, and then they go in there and they're just in there smoking weed. But yeah, they were just kind of throwaway characters.
That was complete deja vu for me because that's exactly what it looked like my car last week. It looked the same. Like right. I was like, "Yo, deja vu."
Weird. They're in there smoking dope. But yeah. So I thought those characters were okay. Like I said, they were just kind of extra characters. But I always laughed at them. I always thought, again, the Cheech and Chong reference comes from when they're in the van and they start smoking weed, and the cops come up behind them with all the lights on.
Yeah.
And they're like, they start eating the drugs. I don't know if you've ever seen, I don't know what movie it is, Nice Dreams, or one of those Cheech and Chong movies. They actually have to do that. So I'm sure it's stolen right from that Cheech and Chong movie. But then the cops just pass by and they didn't have to eat the drugs in the first place. So I always thought that was pretty funny. But Shelley, okay, let's talk about Shelley. And who was the other guy? The I can't even remember his name now.
I don't even know his name. Yeah, he's like the generic boyfriend for Tracy Savage.
Right, exactly. So, and the fact that they had to have sex in a hammock and all that stuff, I thought that was pretty funny. But Larry Zerner, I met Larry Zerner at the last convention I was at, and this guy is the most, and I don't think he ever did anything else. It's not like his acting was like really really great, but I always felt like I had something in common. I was always the chubby kid and. The guy on the outside sometimes. So I always loved that character because that's who I was. But I met Larry Zerner. He's such a wonderful guy, such a nice guy. I mean, there wasn't a ton of people visiting his table, at the convention. And he talked to me for like a half hour. We just kind of BS'd about the Dodgers because he lives in L.A. and, all that kind of stuff. So he was a really, really nice guy. And like I said, he did an intro for the show that I fucked up somehow. But he was he's such a genuine guy, such a down to earth guy, and he's actually a big attorney, like a Hollywood attorney, and he does like law things at like Comic-Con, like he leads law panels and shit like that for that business. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I always liked Larry Zerner a lot. What'd you think about him? Did you like all the characters?
I always loved Larry Zerner as Shelley. I thought that was awesome, probably the best character in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was just interesting, like to have this guy that was into horror and is into scaring people, and
right.
he has a lot of little funny little one-liners. Like she goes, "What's all in that box?" He goes, "My whole life," and it's just it's it's just that little charm, and he's kind of says a smile. He goes, "Stick around, you'll see."
Yeah, oh, jeez.
And really, he does. I mean, he put a swimsuit in there, a hockey mask in there, a fake, like a fake hatchet in there.
Right.
There's so much stuff he must have had in that bag, and I always loved that character, man. It's always thought if I was in a Friday the 13th, I don't know if I'd be exactly Shelley, but
right.
I'd be somebody like Shelley. Like I wouldn't be just the classic minority characters. Like I
right.
definitely don't fit in with like a jock or a stoner, or
right.
I'd probably be somewhere like that blurs the lines like a Shelley. So I really appreciate the character because he kind of blurs the minority like kind of lines.
Sure.
He's just
sure.
kind of the goofball that's into scaring people and doesn't know when to quit. And I don't know, I love that character. I always thought that was one of the best characters of the series.
Yeah. How did he get that harpoon in that thing?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. How did he get anything really?
Right.
Like all the shit he has. It was pretty funny.
Probably wouldn't even have fit the mask, let alone a harpoon. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the smallest little thing ever. And so, what did you think of the biker gang?
I liked them. I thought, what are they? Loco, Fox, and Ali? Is that their name?
Yeah.
I liked the characters. I thought they were funny. I thought, they did a lot, but I thought they were kind of killed off a little too easily. You know what I mean? I don't know. And I know it's Jason, but I don't know. And I thought it was cool how, spoiler alert, I guess I should say, how, Ali came back at the end, which, didn't make a whole lot of sense, but who cares, right? I like that. I like that he served, a halfway decent purpose later on in the movie. But I love the characters. Fox, actually, Gloria, what's her name? Gloria something or other. Charles, she actually just died not too long ago, right?
We were talking about it. She just passed away, right?
Yeah, last December, so it's almost been a year, about 10 months ago. So, I thought they were cool characters. I don't know. I think they threw them in there, not expecting people to kind of connect with them, but I thought they were cool characters. What about you?
I do too, and I think I actually am surprised to hear you say they died a little like lame. I actually always thought their death scenes were kind of cool. Because like with her, she's like swinging from the what would you even call that thing? Like
yeah, I don't know.
Harness? I don't know. She's swinging from like this rope from the barn, and she's like, "This is fun." And then Loco goes, "Yo, Ali's gonna be pissed. Stop doing that."
You're right.
And, he's like the classic. He's got to smoke every time in his mouth.
Right.
On screen. Like I love those characters. They're so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then all of a sudden she's missing.
Right. Yeah.
And he's just like, "Oh shit!" He's like, "What are you doing? Stop screwing around. Stop screwing around." And then he finds her, and she's kind of like hanging by the
rafters,
like a rake. Yeah, and it's like into one of the pillars, and like I always thought that was an amazing shot, and that's like coming through the screen at you too in the 3D 3D effect, I guess. And then he gets the rake right to the stomach, and like just like slowly just goes down. I always thought that was like classic, man. I love those characters. I think they were actually kind of a really good addition to this movie because it's kind of like, I guess I like when you throw bikers in movies,
Yeah. Well, in most of these movies, you don't find, you're introduced to characters, and that's really all you have. Especially the first two. So it was kind of cool to have characters from outside of the, the main group come in. And, I didn't necessarily have a problem with their death scenes. I just thought maybe they would have put up a little bit more of a fight, because they were supposed to be badasses. Maybe that's how I feel. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily their death scenes that I thought were bad. I just thought, I don't know, maybe I expected them to put up a little bit more of a ruckus.
Yeah, but I guess that goes to show you that like Jason is as bad at. Like,
that's a good point.
Jason a better rep. It's basically like
good point. I never thought of it that way.
He's going to kill these badass bikers, without any effort. And Ali comes back, but not very long.
Yeah, he didn't. Well, I mean, he did bash him in the head a few times. Like, and I always thought he was stabbing him, but he must have just been hitting him in the head, huh?
Yeah, I you know what that always reminded me of? It reminded me of like a wrestling pay-per-view.
Yep.
Like where they're like somebody helps the heel.
Right.
Like it's like he like gave the distraction that caused Dana Kimball to win the match or
Yep.
something.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's funny. And one thing I wanted to talk about too, without getting out of rhythm here, is Steve Miner, who directed this and Part 2. Are you a fan?
I'm a fan of this. Part 2 and House. After that, movies like Warlock I kind of like, and then after that, I really don't like Lake Placid. I don't really like Halloween H2O. I find it very weird that he'll come out and talk about Day of the Dead remake, but he won't talk about this movie or Part 2.
Yeah, that's kind of odd, huh?
I guess I don't know. I appreciate these movies more than that movie, but I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, I mean, okay. First of all, I love Lake Placid, so. I think that's a really good movie. H2O, I thought was probably better than most of the Halloween sequels. So Warlock, I'm not a huge fan of. House is okay. I think it's a good movie. But he did a few things in TV that make me really like him too. Is first of all, he did quite a few, like 13 or 14 episodes, and he was a producer for the TV show The Wonder Years. Have you ever seen that show?
I have seen The Wonder Years, and it is a good show.
Which I absolutely loved that show growing up. And I'm going to tell people a little bit too much about me right here. I might get some hate mail. I was a big Dawson's Creek fan, and he directed quite a few episodes of Dawson's Creek. So, the fact that he did these two movies, Friday 13th Part 2 and 3, first of all, that right there is enough for me to like the guy, because those are my two favorite Friday 13th. But he did those also. Like I said, I enjoy Lake Placid. It's funny. You and I have talked about this, many times. Is I'm not huge on a lot of comedy in my horror, but Lake Placid is a movie that I really, really enjoy. So, and the fact that he did H2O, which I thought was better than probably the 3 or 4 sequels before that, and House is House is obviously, it's a good laugh and a good movie at times, for a cheesy movie. But didn't Sean Cunningham produce that too?
Yes, I think he was with Sean. I think that was like the last movie he did with Sean Cunningham. So
maybe they had a falling out, and that's why he doesn't want to talk about anything. I don't know. I don't know what the deal's there.
He did like one convention a couple years ago, and I don't remember if they interviewed him at the convention or anybody asked him, but I would love to know what is the disconnect? Why is he ashamed for some reason?
Right.
I'd love to know, because he should be ashamed of the Day of the Dead remake.
Oh, absolutely. But listen, I'm sure he's out there listening. Steve, come on, talk to us. Let us get the scoop.
Well, now he's not going to talk to us because I made fun of the Day of the Dead remake.
Oh boy. So anyway, wouldn't it be crazy if he?
We should have him on and talk about Dawson's Creek.
Oh, there you go. Hey, I'm down with that. I could do a Dawson's Creek podcast. Anyway, speaking of bad acting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the other obvious thing about this movie. How do you feel about Richard Brooker, who played Jason?
Richard Brooker is one of, if not the top Jasons, in the series. I would put him at number 3. I've always said, Ted White. No, actually, I'd put him at number 2. I'd do Ted White, Richard Brooker, Kane Hodder. That'd be my top 3 Jasons. Yeah. And I think he does a phenomenal job, because he was like a trapeze artist.
Oh, really? Interesting. I didn't know that.
And he's a big guy that moved really fucking well.
Yeah. Yep.
And obviously, he's the first Jason to don the classic, infamous, iconic mask.
Right.
And it's one of those things that everybody. I loved on the Camp Crystal Lake DVD. They were talking about, who put the mask on Jason? It's one of those things where I don't care what the answer is.
Right.
It's one of those things I just fucking drink the Kool-Aid with and enjoy.
Yep. It's
like, it may be the most iconic symbol in horror history. I think actually I would put it up there as the number 1 iconic symbol in horror history. When I think horror movies, when I think Friday the 13th, I think. Not only do I think this movie in particular, I think that hockey mask.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And maybe that's one of the reasons, we have an affinity for the Shelley character because he's the one who introduced the mask in the movie. Just thinking, subconsciously, obviously, because I enjoy the character regardless. But yeah, that's one of the great things about this movie. And a lot of people really love this movie. You know what I mean? We're not the only ones who feel that this is one of the better ones in the whole series. So the fact that this movie introduces the mask, I think gives it a little bit more cachet to fans, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think it's a really underrated movie in and of the fact of the way it's shot.
Oh yeah,
it has really good cinematography for a Friday the 13th film.
Yes.
I always thought it was interesting that nobody ever really mentions. It's really not. It doesn't take place in Crystal Lake, really.
No.
And I don't think they expect you to buy. It's kind of more like a pond,
right?
What they're next to, and it's her house, I guess, because it says Higgins Place or something.
Right. Higgins Haven.
Higgins Haven, yeah, that was it. And I always thought that was interesting that they changed it up. It was really not a camp in this one. It was just like a summer house or something. But it still has the same I don't know what it is about that barn, man. But that barn, I think, adds so much atmosphere to this movie.
Yes. Absolutely.
Every time somebody goes in that barn, and there's a few times where there are even times where somebody goes in and just looks quickly and you don't even see what happens to them or they walk out. But I don't know, that barn just adds so much depth and arc to this movie that I would even say some of the other movies maybe lacked. As much as I love the camp setting, I thought this was a cool kind of deviation from it. Now he's killing them in this barn,
right?
And he keeps peeking his head out the door. And this movie actually, for 3/4 of it, you never really see Jason. You don't see him much. He's almost like he's the shape. It's he's moving around in the shadows, and then towards the end, you see him with the infamous hockey mask. But it's a lot of it you just see him from basically the neck down. You don't really see his face till the end, which I still think is an amazing effect.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think this is a great, a really, really great Friday the 13th movie. And believe it or not, I would only put it at my number 5 favorite. That, and that's speaking to how good the other ones are too.
Sure, yeah. The gentleman who was the cinematographer of this movie is a guy by the name of Gerald Feel. I'm not sure how you say it, Feil. And you would think that this guy had a decent history with cinematography. Now, he was a cinematographer only on 4 different movies. Okay,
wow.
And listen to the movies. First is He Knows You're Alone. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, that's the Sean S. Cunningham, right? Or no, is that Carpenter?
No, He Knows You're Alone. I'm not sure. It's a foreign guy who directed it. Let me look real quick.
Oh, that's the one with Tom Hanks.
Right. Armand Mastroianni.
Okay. There's a lot of movies like that around that time.
Yeah.
Strangers Watching.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I confused it with.
Yeah. So, and which it's a cool slasher, early slasher. You know what I mean? I really enjoy that movie. And then it's this one, Friday 13th Part 3, and then he did a very little known movie called Silent Madness, which I actually just bought the poster a few months ago. It's hanging right here next to me.
Yeah, we were talking about it on the Sleepaway Camp episode.
Right, exactly. And actually, it still has never been released on DVD, let alone Blu-ray. And so I had to buy a VHS bootleg at the convention that I was at. And then he did another movie called Savage Dawn, which was a very Rambo-esque movie. So I think it's pretty interesting that this movie looks the way it does with a guy, and maybe Tim Miner. Tim Miner was a singer back in the 80s. Steve Miner, had something to do with that. But that's pretty interesting, that we both think this movie shot well and it was shot by somebody who, only has 4 movies under his belt. And I'm sure he's gone by this point. I don't even know if the guy's still alive. So he never did anything after 1991. That was a short film. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
That is pretty interesting. And I think it really... What I thought was interesting talking to Tracy Savage a few years ago, I remember she said, we were really all like kids making this movie.
Yeah.
She says it's amazing to me how all these people grow up and they all love it, and like the cult fans and even the people that are casual fans, go back and rewatch this movie.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because Steve Miner was really young at the time. The entire cast, seemingly except Mr. Kratka,
Right.
It was made by a bunch of yuppie college students, or even younger, or even just maybe a little bit older. But these weren't veterans that were making these movies. And I think, in my opinion, what I said to Miss Savage, I said, I think that's a charm to these movies.
Sure.
And I think I actually made a football reference to her, and she got it, though, because I guess she's a fan. But I said, it's the difference between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And she kind of looked at me, and I was like, I'll end the plane. I said, Brett Favre, I love Brett Favre because he made mistakes. He made interceptions. Right. He was a gunslinger that got shot sometimes.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
But as a fan of football, I couldn't help but always cheer for the guy because of his imperfections. Because I think on the surface we're all imperfect, and we all make mistakes. But I think when you look at a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, the guy makes no mistakes really. He's almost perfect. And it's almost it's irritating. He's like goddamn, make a mistake, like do something wrong, But that's what I said to her. I said that's the difference. I think it's this movie's imperfections behind the scenes, and it's the fact that these movies weren't made by complete veterans and Scorsese's and Spielbergs of the world. They were made by people just like you and I, people that were young, people that were stupid, people that were naive, people that wanted to make a fun popcorn entertaining film. And I think that's a lot of charm added to the top of this, I guess, like kind of Sunday. And I think it really, really works, and it's always driven home with me. I think that's why Friday the 13th is my favorite series, because it has a lot of imperfections, but it keeps me coming back to it so many times. I think it's a really strong arc that the series has.
Yeah, I agree. And, talking about their ages, I believe Steve Miner was only 30 when he made this movie, and Tracy Savage herself was only 19 when this movie was made. So, that really... I don't know, that thinking about that, I mean, you are older than Tracy Savage was when she made this movie. Pretty interesting.
Can you imagine me being in a Friday the 13th movie?
Oh, wouldn't that be incredible? That'd be
oh
insane.
My God, dude, that'd be really, really cool.
So, I mean, and like you said, it gives it some, it gives it something, a little bit more substance, than and I know the times are different, but to make this movie on the budget that they made this on. And, I mean, this movie made $10 million, almost $10 million its opening weekend, to a bunch of kids, and I know it had, it had name recognition at that point and everything. But this movie only cost, $2.5 million to make, $2.3 million to make, and it made, $37 million. So, yeah, to think that all these people got together and, they kind of were winging it at that time. I know Steve Miner had been working on some films as an assistant director and all that. But, yeah, and I think that this same thing goes for Halloween. The original Halloween, it was just a bunch of kids, and, they had $300,000, and they got together. And I think, I know you don't necessarily know that when you're watching these films, but, it makes you appreciate them even more now,
Yeah, so. For sure. It's one of those things. It's like, I always felt like it was an extra added charm. Like, when Absolutely. I watch Halloween and Elm Street and, like as great as movies as they are, they're perfect. I sometimes I like to watch something that's maybe a little bit more imperfect,
Right.
And it fits in with the whole slasher genre. And yeah, that's why I thought that football reference, when I was talking about it, I was like, that's actually perfect, like.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. What did you think? We kind of skipped over this. What did you think of the characters of Harold and Edna at the very beginning?
Oh, I always thought they were funny. I mean, I don't really. I always thought they were just I thought he was really funny. He always eats food from his store, and he had a rabbit just sitting there. I always thought he was funny.
He was eating fish food.
Yeah, he ate the fucking fish eggs, and then peanuts, and then a donut. And she's like, "Stop eating!" And then she walks away, and then he takes like an aggressive bite out of the donut, like to spite her. I always thought that was funny, man. But I always thought it was funny that Steve Miner is the guy on the news.
Yeah, he's the newscaster. Absolutely.
That was really cool.
Isn't that crazy? And it's not just a tiny little thing. I mean, he goes on for, a minute or so on the screen. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty funny, too. But talking about Harold and Edna, I thought it was pretty funny because Edna seemed, they tried to make her look old. But I think she was pretty... like a lot younger than that guy was. Like he was born in the in the 40s, and she was born in like the 60s. You know what I mean? I thought that was pretty funny that they put those two together. They tried to old her up. But yeah, I mean, obviously they didn't last too long. I think they were used for the 3D effect, because remember the snake comes out and it looks like it's going to bite Harold, and the rat comes out on the, on the stick, like it's going to get Edna or whatever. I always thought that was kind of what they were there for.
I love all those 3D like kind of gimmick things they do in this movie. Like there's a lot of them where with the bum with the eye.
Oh yeah.
I have warned thee.
Right.
He basically takes over Crazy Ralph.
That's exactly what he is. Yep, that's exactly what I thought when I saw it the first time. I was like, that's Crazy Ralph right there. But I will say that I thought that the beginning of this movie, where Jason's kind of lurking in the clothes hanging on the line, I always thought that was great. You know what I mean? I remember thinking, when I first saw it or when I was younger, that it was really scary. You know what I mean? That, and it kind of reminds me of the scene in Halloween 4, where she's looking out the window and he's, and Michael Myers is in the clothes that are hanging on the line. I always liked that. I don't know. I always found that pretty scary as a kid. Mm-hmm. So I thought the beginning of the movie was a good setup. And they show the where it happened in part 2, as you're passing by, that's where all the cops were and stuff. I thought it kind of worked out well how they showed that it was actually just the next day, you know what I mean? And that's why Jason was still around. I don't know. I thought Steve Miner or whoever wrote it did a very good job explaining up to this point. Now after this, it gets a little crazy. You don't know, how much time's passed in between a lot of them. How, it's the very, very next day that this one's happening, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know people will try to figure out the timeline of these movies. Like, they didn't pay attention, and nor do I care. Like, I don't know, I don't look at any of these movies with a real critique eye at all, It's just like, I kind of just try to enjoy them, which, I mean, I enjoy the hell out of this one, but let's get into some of the kills, man.
All right.
I think the kills in this movie are amazing. Like, whether it be the harpoon gun, whether it be the guy walking on his hands and he gets split in half. I mean,
man.
There are a lot of awesome-ass kills in this movie. And they all really stand out, and they all, I think, age well. I think the effects in this movie are pretty well done.
Yeah, I think they're pretty well done. But I did notice this time, and again, I know this isn't something that I regularly pay attention to, but I did notice this time the kid who was walking on his hands. Now, I thought it was great how they showed Jason standing like to the side in the hallway as he's walking on his hands in the hallway, and when he hits him with the machete, doesn't he like hit him in the crotch and like cut him in half? Yeah. Isn't that what you always thought? But then when Tracy Savage looks up at him and I don't know where the hell he is when she's laying on the hammock and looks up and sees him up there, he actually cut him in half the other way. Again, you probably
think it's too critically.
Well, like I said, dude, listen, it is very, very hard. First of all, I'm doing it for a different reason now, watching it for this, but it's very hard. Literally, see, I don't think you understand. You think you've seen this movie 100 times? Would you say that it's close?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Imagine someone double your age. How many times I've seen it? Okay,
you've probably seen it over fucking 400
times. Yeah,
at
least I would say at least 200 times. So it's hard to not pay attention to different things when you've watched it that many times. You're absolutely right, and I totally agree with you. Like if I was just talking, if you and I were talking at the coffee shop about it, I'd be mad if you said something like that. But
yeah, that's why I don't like. I feel like I don't think people listen to this and go, "Oh, I hope they bring up that I don't know." I think people just want to hear how much we love it and entertaining at times. You know what I mean? Like, I feel what you mean, though. Like, the last episode you were saying that you look at it with more of a critique.
Yeah.
I don't know. Especially with movies like this, I don't at all.
Well, and that's, and see, I would usually agree with you, that you shouldn't be looking at these movies with that critical eye. And honestly, like I said, if we were sitting at the coffee shop, I'd probably be pissed that someone was. But I just thought it was funny that's something in so many times that I've seen this movie that I never even, it never entered my mind. I didn't really care about. But this time I went, hey, he's cut the wrong way. You know what I mean? One of those kind of deals. But one of the things about that death scene or that reveal scene where it shows him cut in half that I loved was when Tracy Savage goes to sit down in the hammock and she grabs a Fangoria magazine.
I love that.
Yeah, I grew up reading Fangoria. Now I don't buy it now, but actually I don't even know if it's still around. Is it?
I don't think so.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I think about a year ago.
But yeah, I stopped when they raised the price to $10. I stopped buying it and I started buying Horror Hound. But anyways, but I grew up back then, man. That was really my only connection other than the movies themselves to the industry of horror movies. You know what I mean? So I loved reading Fangoria magazine when I was a kid. So I just thought that was great.
I thought it was a cool homage to the Kevin Bacon death.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Okay, so here, I forgot to tell you this. Not that I should have mentioned it, but my mother-in-law is in town, okay? And she's staying with us.
Okay.
Yeah, so say a prayer. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say. Like, what?
But the reason I say that is she actually sat down and watched Friday 13th 3 with me.
Oh, shit.
So she can't be too bad, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, but so she said, we're watching the movie and Tracy Savage death comes up and she says, that's exactly the way Kevin Bacon died in the first one because we watched that together, a couple years ago. So, that's exactly what she said. Oh, that's what happened to, and she didn't realize it was Kevin Bacon, but that's what happened to the other guy in part 1. So, but yeah, that's exactly what I thought of too. I mean, everything, the hand over the forehead and, and up through the back. So, but yeah, I thought that's exactly what I thought is an homage. I thought, I don't know. To be honest with you, I thought it was a cool homage, but I thought they could have done something different, don't you?
I don't know. I actually really always liked it. There are all the kills in this movie I really think are awesome. Like even the guy that gets thrown into the electrical kind of outlet or whatever.
Right.
I always thought it was really cool how he turns on the lights. And Jason's
man, that's badass.
That was really, really creepy.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely scary for sure. Yeah,
he's honestly in this movie until like the final chase scene. He's very much like Michael Myers. It feels like.
Yeah.
He's very slow. He's just walking. He's in the shadows, kind of.
Well,
and I love the classic harpoon scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I dropped your wallet. Sorry. Who are you? And then she's like, "This is not funny." And then he shoots the harpoon right at her, and she just goes, "Oh!" And it hits her right in the eye, man. And it still, I think, looks phenomenal. Like I think it looks great. Like, and it's great because they show it really quick, and then she falls into the water.
Yep.
And I'm just like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" That scene.
He has great aim. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're
everybody. I am the less critical of the two.
Right. Well, you know what I'm saying. I just thought that was great. But I agree with you. They show enough. They show enough to to go for you to for your mind to figure it all out, and then she falls in the water. You know what I mean? I think that's really the mark of great effects, don't you think? Now, don't get me wrong. I love Tom Savini, but Tom Savini is good at showing everything. You know what I mean? Like he'll linger on a scene for a second, but if you're not Tom Savini, you have to get in and get out with those types of scenes, don't you think?
Yeah, that's true. Like honestly, in part 2, even though I like the kills a lot and I think the effects are really good, they're very quick. There's nothing they show for too long.
Right.
Even the guy that gets killed in the wheelchair, which is my favorite death in the movie. Yeah. They really don't show much. It's just that classic scene of him going down the steps on the wheelchair.
Right.
That's really it almost helps you draw in the rest of the blanks with your
Absolutely.
brain.
Absolutely. Yeah, the camera's far enough away that you don't get critical of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I love that scene too.
Next Friday the 13th, I mean, it was the same thing. I mean, Savini, he nailed the effects, but again, they're very quick.
Right.
They aren't. Nothing lingers. They don't linger or stray on a shot too long.
Right.
They kind of keep moving around, and I think that helps because for one thing, it helps pacing, and for another thing, it doesn't let us stop and say like, oh, I see how they did this. It's prosthetic, and you know what I mean. Like it's quick enough where I can just go, oh shit, and then next scene,
Right.
He shoots Vera and then just looks up and he just sees the lights on in the room with Tracy Savage and they're having sex, and it's just like, okay, now I know where he's going.
Right. Yep. From one step to the next, for sure. But I'm trying to think of the other kills for like Paul Kratka. It's hard. You want to see all these movies in all their glory in 1080p, on Blu-ray. Did you watch it on Blu-ray?
No, I don't. I watched it on my from Crystal Lake to Manhattan box.
Oh, cool.
I still have that.
That's great. I wish I kept mine, to be honest with you. But okay, that scene was as great as it is. Okay, watching it on Blu-ray reminds me of watching Annie's death in the original on Blu-ray. you see too much.
You see the aesthetic.
Yeah,
you see too much.
You know what I mean? Like you can literally
so good, you see everything.
Exactly. So in a movie, especially a movie like this that's 3D, you see the the monofilament line where like when he throws the knife at Dana Kimmel and sticks it into the doorway, and you see the I'll call it fishing line where his eye pops out. You see all that stuff. So and I've already seen it. I knew it was there, but I think somebody who's watching it for the first time, if they watched it on Blu-ray, it would take them out of the movie a little bit. You know what I mean? They'd be like, "Oh, I see exactly what happened there," like kind of like what you were just saying. But I agree with you. I think that the effects in this are as good as they could have possibly been without being over the top. You know what I mean? So I agree. But when his eye popped out, my mother-in-law, you'd have thought somebody stabbed her in the rear end with a taser gun or something. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think like even too like the creativity of these people. Like,
right?
We'll have Jason shoot somebody with a harpoon gun, and the harpoon will be the gimmick of the 3D.
Right.
And have him crush somebody's skull in half, and his eye will pop out. Like who thought of that, man? Like that's,
right.
It's so brilliant, and it's so simple, but yet it's so effective. I mean, it's really smart. I think they really put a lot of time and effort into thinking about the kills in this movie, and I think it really, really hits home. I mean, there are a lot of like really, really good ones, and I think they really, I don't know, they're just really good, man.
Yeah. I guess Shelley's death scene is the only one that isn't, right now, where you know what I mean, where he you see he comes back later with a slit throat. You know what I mean? But that's, and I love that scene because Chili, the girl, the doper, whatever you want to call her, the weed smoker, she thinks he's messing around because he's messed around the whole movie. He comes in, he comes in with his throat slit, and he can't talk obviously because his throat's slit, which I always thought was funny. Sometimes they can talk with their throat slit. But so she thinks he's messing around, and finally he just kind of flops on the ground, and ends up dying. But and I always thought it was funny. She tries to close the door with him in it. You know what I mean? Like she's just like, get out of, she's kicking at him, trying to get the door closed. I always thought that was pretty funny. But I'm trying to think of all the death scenes. We got the guy that cut in half. We got, and I guess you should have said spoiler alerts. But I guess we should. I'm trying to think. Ali, yeah, I guess we got everybody.
We covered
didn't we?
About everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to get into what I think is the highlight of this movie.
Okay.
And that's the final chase scene between Chris and Jason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think to this day, it may be my favorite, like, final climatic chase in any Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
I just love like, like all the little things, like when she throws all the books on him, and he comes up the steps, and then she hides in the closet, and then she sees Tracy Savage. She has to decide. She has to pull the knife out of her friend, and then she comes out and she starts swinging at him, and he just keeps dodging. And there's just some great scenes of her. I remember as a kid watching this when she gets out the window and he's trying to grab her back in. And I remember being so on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my God, and then if her clothes or whatever, her sweatshirt rips, and she like falls and she's like escaped, and I'm like, oh my God, like I remember being so, extremely nervous for her and tense, and that's a great thing with horror movies, man.
Yes.
Like when and especially with nostalgia, like when I remember watching this movie for the very first time and I was a young kid. I mean, it was so awesome to me where they went with this little chase scene. I mean, she gets in the car, she drives away, and then she kind of runs out of gas on this bridge, and she's like, oh shit, he comes into the side of the window, tries to grab her, and she rolls up, headbutt through the glass.
Right,
I mean,
right.
It's some classic stuff, man. Yep. And then of course, I love that it ends in the barn.
Yes.
I always thought that was a phenomenal place to end it, because they killed so many people in this barn. It was such a creepy ass barn. Yeah. I just thought the whole sequence as a whole worked really, really well. Even going as far as for her to hang him, and she opens the doors and that classic wide shot.
Oh yeah.
Looking up, and then he moves, and she goes, "No, you can't be alive." No, it's just, oh, man,
it works.
It's like that whole sequence is like a prime reason why I love horror.
Yeah, I agree. This is a very early in my horror life, I guess. And yeah, I agree with you. See, there are a lot of things in this movie that when I think back, I think, like Richard Brooker, when he headbutts the window to get away and she's running away, Richard Brooker runs in this movie, and I remember thinking, Jason doesn't run, but Jason runs, man, and I love it. You know what I mean? It works for me. Later on, and that's the one bad thing about changing Jason so often, which, I understand is part of the industry. As much as I love Kane Hodder, I don't find his Jason as scary as, say, Ted White's and Richard Brooker's Jason. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree.
Yeah. So I when I think about Friday the 13th, and if we were to talk about it without, thinking about it, I would say I don't want my Jason to run, right? But I do. You know what I mean? I like this Jason the best, and I like the Jason that's much more athletic, and there's Kane Hodder and Richard Brooker are different looking guys, but that doesn't mean that Richard Brooker isn't as scary. Like Kane Hodder is kind of physically impending. Is that the word? Is that the word I'm trying to say? I don't know. Imposing. Thank you. Physically imposing, which he's actually really not in real life because I'm actually bigger than he is. But what my thoughts in my head. But Richard Brooker is also not a small guy, and he's much more athletic. So, if I think about it critically, I think I like my Jason as Richard Brooker more than I like Kane Hodder. Sorry, Kane, I love you as a dude, and I love your portrayal of Jason, but I think I like Richard Brooker's a little bit better. Now,
yeah, Richard Brooker really set the tone too as to what Jason, how to be Jason.
Yeah, I agree.
Like even like as much as the whole Steve Dash and whatnot. Like he was not really. It still to me doesn't even feel like he played Jason. Like he played Tater Sack Jason. This is but the classic hockey mask Jason.
Right, exactly.
The first was Richard Brooker, and I look at Richard Brooker as kind of, and even people will go Arlie Lehman, but no, to me, Richard Brooker's the first quote unquote Jason. Like this is the first Jason that is iconic. Yeah,
well, and don't get me wrong, I love Steve Dash. Okay.
Oh, same.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I love his character, and I think we talked about this before. And this is me being super, super in depth and critical. I see Steve Dash as like a teenage Jason. I always thought he was a smaller,
exactly. I agree 100%.
A smaller dude.
He's Jason before he's a man.
Right, exactly. So they're two totally different Jasons, I think, from 2 to 3, even though they take place in the next day. which is really funny, but
still, hey man, it's Saturday the 14th, I guess, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, right, exactly. Which again, I neither here nor there. They're two different guys, but they're playing two different Jasons. So, but then you talked about the scene in the where she was stabbing at him with the knife and stuff. I don't know. I always found that a little cheesy, but it never took away from anything. I don't know. I don't know. I never got into that. I thought the chase was great, but she stabs him in the leg, and I did notice this time around, sometimes he limps and sometimes he doesn't, which is no big deal. But the scene in the barn is probably the best. And listen, we both agree here. Amy Steele is awesome, and her character is awesome, and the movie is awesome. But this end scene is probably the best of the series in the fact that I think later on, because Jason really became the hero of these movies, you know what I mean by hero, right? He became the main focus. Is this they didn't know that was going to happen, so they made him a little bit more vulnerable at times. So later on, they made him, unbeatable at times. You know what I mean? So
like there's a part where she hits him in the back of the head with a log,
right?
And he goes down,
right?
And even in part 2, I think Amy Steele kicks him in the balls, and
exactly
now just like any other guy. Like if you did that in part 6 or part 7, he would just stop, look at you, and kill you.
Right? He would just stop and turn his head and look at you. Exactly. That's what I was just going to say.
Jason better than the whole zombie Jason that it was.
I agree.
6.
I agree.
You know, like I like the vulnerable. I think it's better to have a vulnerable, even though people go, well, she hung him, she hit him with an axe in the head, and
right.
you know, how is he not a zombie too? Considered a zombie too? Right. I don't know. It just isn't. It's just one of those things where it's, you know, he's more easy. He's more injury prone than, you know, the other that proceeded.
He's more human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Than he is later on in these movies. But I'll tell you what, when she hangs him, which I think is great, you know, like, you know, she knocks him out, which I always thought was kind of funny that, because she didn't hit him very hard, you know, in the movie. But again, doesn't really matter. She knocks him out, she puts the rope around his neck and pushes him off, and then she goes down and opens the door. And I loved how she didn't just go down and open that door. You know, it took her a minute, you know what I mean? Because it showed how hard it was to get that board inside, you know, to lock it down. So I thought that was really great. You know, most movies, they would just go down, open the door, and, you know, move on. But she had to get that wheel or whatever it was and knock the board out. Anyways, and when spoiler alert, when she opens the door and he reaches up and grabs, oh my God, dude, probably one of the best scenes in a Friday the 13th movie ever. In my opinion, he grabs the rope and pulls himself up. Oh,
that's it. She's gonna get away now, and like,
right.
I thought movie over, and then, oh my God, he's still alive. I was like, no way.
Yep.
And this maybe will sound weird, but like, I always enjoyed what they were wearing. Like, I like what he was wearing, the whole like the green.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Taxi Driver for some reason.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
And I liked her, like the blue kind of sweater.
Yep.
She was wearing. I don't know. That was always something I kind of liked. And I love that final where she sees the axe.
Yes.
And he's getting rid of Ali again for the second time. And you're like, oh shit, here we go.
Right.
And then axe to the skull. And then I like how Jason reaches out, you know, kind of reaching out at the audience, and then just kind of buckles and goes down. And like, I always thought that was just an amazing. Probably my favorite kill of Jason in any of these movies too.
Yep.
I mean, it's such a classic, you know, let's get one last 3D thing to scare this audience and, you know, make them go, oh my God, is he still going to come at her with this, you know, after this axe? You know, it reminds me of like Halloween 2 when after Loomis blows up Michael, he still walks out of the fire.
Right.
And
good
no
stuff.
Way. He's still coming after her, and then he kind of just crumbles down. But I mean, it's that split second where you make the viewer go, "Oh my God, this is he's unstoppable."
Yeah,
you know, it just adds such a great charm, especially if you're a kid,
right?
You watch these movies because it's like you're like, it almost becomes the most surreal thing in the world. You're like, this is so real. Like, I can't believe he's still coming at her.
Yeah,
you know, and that's why Jason and Michael are so like over with the horror community.
Right. Don't you think, thinking back now, I really do feel like this is the last time in a slasher movie where, as an audience, you didn't say, oh, he's coming, but he's not dead yet. You know, in this movie, you thought he was dead every time. You know what I mean? You know, where she hung him, you thought, oh, he's dead. You know, I think it's the last time in a slasher movie that people didn't say, oh, he's coming back. You know what I mean? Because you didn't, you know, the trope wasn't there yet. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think that may be, you know, a big thing about this movie too, is that you believed it all the way. You believed that he was dead, you know, all the way until for instance, she hangs him, boom. Then she hits him in the head with the axe, right? Oh, he's got to be dead now. She hit, you know, he's got an axe to the head, and then he reaches out. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it may be the last time, you know, thinking about it in my head, and, you know, because I saw it when it originally came out, it may have been the last, because every movie now you're like, well, he ain't dead. He's, you know, he's coming back somehow. You know what I mean? And not just Jason, but in any slasher movie. You know, the killer's not dead yet. He's going to reach out and grab her leg, or, you know, or something. Something's going to happen. So I think this might have been the last time, at least for me, that I said that he, you know, he was dead. So that's pretty interesting. But I agree with you that the barn really added something to this story, and it really gave you something other than Jason himself to be worried about. Because, you know, that barn, the whole time you're like, something's up with that barn. You know what I mean? And I love that about this movie. I really think it makes the movie.
I totally agree. I think it's a phenomenal, you know, final, like, climatic chase battle or whatnot. And I think it's great. And I think it's probably my favorite in the series. And that's saying a lot because I really love part 2
Yes,
and
me
I
too.
really love part 4. You know, I think both of those have great final. Even the original has a great final.
Yes. Yes.
You know, but I will say the thing that scares me the most about this movie, even to this day, and people probably laugh, but the scene after where Chris kind of gets into the the little boat,
Mm-hmm.
and she rows herself out in the pond, and it's the morning, and then she sees Jason in the window.
Oh man, I love it.
And he's like smiling and like nodding his head,
He's like
and you see his face, and I will never forget the fear
yes
that put in me as a kid, and to this day, and I had nightmares. I remember having nightmares. I was the one in the boat.
Yep.
And just seeing Jason in that window, and you're like, holy shit! You're like, he's so far away right now, but he's gonna get my ass. Like, I'm done, And then
love it.
He runs through the door like Superman or something. It's like Clark Kent. He just bursts. It's funny. He just literally just shoulder tackles that door.
It
and
just comes off the hinges. Yeah,
I
love it.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, and she's like, it's caught up with all the branches, and she looks, and he's not there.
Yep.
And I was always like, oh my God, where did he go? Where did he go?
Yeah.
And then I thought it was such a good goddamn, hitting us with a left when we think we're going to get it right.
Right.
That Mrs. Voorhees comes out of the water, grabs Chris down through the pond with her. I mean, that is some awesome ass stuff. And then obviously they say, oh, it's a dream sequence and whatnot. But I always thought that is terrifying. And I will go as far to say it shocked me more than the original, even though I'm sure there were people that were like, oh, they're going to have, someone jump out of the water and get her, in another way paying homage to the original. But I won't lie. When I first saw this, I didn't see it coming.
I'm with you.
Shit, man.
Yeah, as big a fan as I was at the time, yeah, I didn't even know. I didn't even think about that. You know what I mean? I guess you thought, well, they're not going to do that again, and bam, they did it, and then it was just as scary as it was the first time. It reminds you of that whole Carrie situation, the Carrie scene, and that's what I'm sure that's what the original was stolen from. I believe they even say that somewhere. But yeah, it worked, man. And I kept thinking, remember the duck flies into the water and it scares her. I kept thinking as I was watching it this time, like, man, I don't remember this many false scares. You know what I mean? And they kept amping it up, and that's how they hammered you at the end when Pamela Voorhees jumps out of the water. You know what I mean? You kept getting all that stuff that wasn't real, and that's when you could do it and get away with it. Now you can't get away with that kind of stuff because everybody knows all the tropes. You know what I mean? But yeah. It absolutely works, and I agree with you, man. When he's looking out of the window at the upstairs window, he's like a caged animal. You know what I mean? He wants to get out the window and he's clawing at the window and stuff. Oh man, as a kid, that scared the shit out of me. And I was probably 10 years old when this movie came out. So yeah, I mean, at 10 years old, it scared the shit out of you. You know what I mean?
I to this day, I think it's a scary, really effective scene. It's really, really well done by Steve Miner.
Yep.
It still scares me. I'm like, shit, man, what the hell is wrong with me? I still can't shake this, but I don't know. It's one of those things. It's always scared me. I thought it was a really, really well done little scene, and I think most of the stuff in this movie really holds up. Like, I think that obviously the effects, the way it's shot.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the acting is the one thing I would say maybe could have been better. But again, it's a slasher.
Right, yeah. If you're going for this to see great performances, you're probably at the wrong place, right?
Absolutely. If I have gripes with this one, I would have liked to have seen Vera shed some clothes, and maybe we could have seen some of Vera or even Dana Kimmel. Like, I would have liked to see one of them, because I thought of the three, they were the two. I thought they were better looking than Tracy Savage. But I have friends, I've showed this to friends, and they always tell me that I'm nuts. They were like, yo, Tracy Savage was easily the best looking of the three. And I was like, no way do I agree with that. But
she had some nice knockers.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
Vera did too. I thought Vera was...
Oh, well, yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, listen, all three of them could have had a naked pillow fight. That would have been great. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I would never...
That would have been better than the great climatic scene. It would have just been like great pillow fight, and then Jason comes in, and then movie over.
Slumber Party Massacre.
True Slumber Party Massacre.
Right.
Let's end this with something. I guess maybe we'll go a little bit outside the box here. Give me like some of your favorite Friday the 13th chicks.
Oh man, well, my favorite always was Terry. Terry was always my favorite. Now, listen. Okay, I'm gonna give a lot of information about myself. I like skinny girls. So, I always found her super, super attractive. I know she didn't have like big hooters or anything like that, but she was always number one on my list. So I guess we could start there. I really, really, again, watching this movie yesterday, I really think all three of these girls are very, very nice looking, all of them. So that and you don't always have that. You know what I mean?
That's true.
You know what I mean? Where you have one or two, but not all of them. And I'll listen. I still can't believe I'm saying this. I loved Marta Kober in part 2. You know what I mean? So yeah, I always liked her.
Marta Kober, is she the one that she's going after the guy in the wheelchair?
No, Marta Kober's the one where they go to the other camp. You know what I mean?
The girl that she has like a really screwed up afterlife.
Yes,
right?
very, very like drugs and real bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I always thought she was really, really cute, and then you find out she was only like 17 when this movie was made. But I always thought she was really, really attractive. So I guess those are my, I like the girls in this. And listen, what's the F, marry or kill or whatever? You know that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
See, I would marry Amy Steele in a second. You know what I mean? And I really like Adrienne King too. Now both of those women are, they're pretty, like 15 or 20 years older than me now. But I love those, like, they're the girls I would definitely date. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The wholesome.
Yeah.
They're perfect final girls because there's nothing about them that stands out other than their personality.
Right, exactly. And listen, Amy Steele was I thought she was gorgeous, but
totally.
Not in the way we're talking about, I guess. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
It's more of the plain.
Right.
Beauty.
Exactly.
But whereas Dana Kimmel, I thought was attractive in a sexual sense.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. What about you? Give me your top 3.
Top 3.
Or 10 if you have a list. You got a list right there in front?
No, I don't have a list. I didn't even know. I'll just I don't know if I'm going to give 3 or no specific order.
Okay.
Other than obviously Amy Steele is number 1 for, I guess, the plain Jane, like my favorite final girl of the series.
Gotcha.
But I always thought the girl from part 8, the bitchy character from part 8, I don't know the actress's name, but she was really hot. She's blonde.
Yeah.
She does this strip tease for the teacher.
Yeah. I can't remember her name
I always
either.
thought she was gorgeous. I always thought, obviously, I'd go Debbie Sue Voorhees.
Wow.
Part 5.
That's a very specific
and
reason.
I think the girl in part 4, not the twins or the prude chick. I always forget her damn name. Her name was her name Judy in the movie? Oh God, she was the one that was she went skinny dipping alone and got killed.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name either, but yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. And yeah, she's the best looking one in that movie for sure.
Absolutely. I think she was. I'd probably from a sexual standpoint say she's number 1 for the series. I thought that girl was just smoking hot, and she also felt real too to me. I've met girls like that. She talked. It's no big deal, Sarah. Me and Paul do it all the time. I love. I think that's one thing that when we talk about part 4 eventually, Joe Zito was fantastic with doing characters like that.
Oh yeah.
He made them all feel real. All those kids in part 4 feel real. None of them, like Crispin Glover, Lawrence Monason. You've met those kids. You've met those people somewhere along in life.
Right.
You've met that prude chick that, and you met that guy that is the chiseled face, and he's trying to be a baby face, like he doesn't want sex, and he's just gonna be like, oh, I'll wait for you, baby. That guy was so full of shit, but he knew he was full of shit, so it worked.
Right.
I love everything about part 4, especially the characters.
Yeah.
But I'd go with her. I'm so sorry. Here, I can look up her name.
Is it Judy Aronson? No, that's is that it?
I think so.
Yeah, it was because Kimberly Beck was Trish, and Judy Aronson played Samantha. Yeah, she's still a very good looking woman.
Yeah. Oh my God. In the from Camp Crystal Lake, the documentary.
Yes. Yep.
What is it? Crystal Lake Memories, right?
Yep. Crystal Lake Memories. Yep.
Yeah. When they interviewed her, I was like, I would still go for her.
Yeah.
She still looks goddamn hot as shit, know? And I couldn't believe what they put her through. The whole hypothermia.
Oh, yeah.
They said that she started her toes and fingers were turning blue. And, I love that Ted White was
stepped in, yeah.
get her out of that water. I'm walking out, motherfucker.
Right.
Like, I love that he stood up to Joe Zito and said, listen here, you take care of your fucking actress, you piece of shit. Like, right. I love that. Like, that is such a hero story.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree. Anybody else?
Let's
trying
see.
to think of the later ones.
I would say Vera. Oh, from the later ones. I think I'm not a big fan of Part 6. I always thought Lar Park Lincoln was pretty good.
Yeah. I agree with you there.
And after, like, I always think Paramount 8. To be honest with you, like, I don't think about any of the other.
Right.
Like
I'm with you there.
Right. Like Jason Goes to Hell. I don't ever think of Jason Goes to Hell as even. But yeah, I would say those three would be from the sexual appeal. And then when we go final girls, obviously I think it would be like Amy Steele, I would say, then maybe Kimberly Beck. Yeah. And this is not in the sexual. This is just like who I liked.
Gotcha.
And then I guess I'd have to go Adrienne King.
Yeah.
But I think even though Dana Kimmel is not as good of an actress as a Lar Park Lincoln or whatever, I think she's better looking. And I like her a little bit more. Because maybe I like Part 3 a little bit more than I like parts, 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah. I'm with you there for sure. No doubt. All right, man. Well, I know next episode we are going to do kind of our favorite movies to watch around Halloween time, right?
Yeah, Halloween horror picks.
So, and I know we have a listener who would really like to come on the show. So, Ryan Snyder, when you hear this, I'll probably be in contact with you. Maybe we'll have you on the show to talk about what you like to watch around Halloween time. I know he's a big Halloween series fan, so I'm sure there'll probably be a Halloween or two in there. And maybe we'll have another guest on to see. Maybe we'll bring Erica back. I know we haven't had Erica for a while. She kind of went on vacation, and we kind of lost touch there for a while. But I'll give her a call and see if she doesn't want to come back on the show. I know she does. I just don't know if she'll be available at that time. So I'm looking forward to that because we usually handle one movie at a time, and this will kind of. And it's not like a top 5 list or anything like that, like we talked about, but it'll be good to hear, what one of the listeners has to say. And obviously, I mean, people probably know us to this point. They'll probably be able to pick out a movie or two that we pick. So that ought to be pretty interesting. So I'm excited to talk about that. Friday 13th Part 3, if you haven't seen it, first of all, where have you been? Second of all, you got to go check it out. And if you have any comments on anything that we had to say, if you dislike anything, I mean, if you agree with us, get in contact with us, fhmpodcast@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook, Flashback Horror Movie Podcast, or on Twitter at Flashback Horror, and Instagram. I think we post most on Instagram, take a lot of pictures and put on there. I tweet every once in a while. Do you have access to our Twitter account, John?
I do not. I know it exists.
Well,
but I don't really. I'm not a big Twitter guy myself. I like Instagram as my favorite.
Well, I still got to get you the information just in case you ever want to post on there. Yeah, so obviously, guys, check us out on there. Like I said, let us know what's going on. You can also reach us at flashbackhorrormoviepodcast@gmail.com. But that just seems to be a lot of typing. So if you don't want to do that, fhmpodcast@gmail.com. All right, my brother, I will catch you on the flip side. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Like I said, the Dodgers are on tonight. If anybody's interested, actually, you won't hear this. Never mind. John, you can check it out tonight if you want. Go Dodgers. And I am still rooting for the Astros to beat the Yankees. Are you?
So am I. I want to see Dodgers-Astros.
Nice.
That's the series I want to see.
Sounds good to me. All right, brother. Well, I'll go ahead and play us out. Like I said, I'll catch you on the flip side, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Keep it creepy, my dude. Have a nice weekend.
All right, you too.